Welcome to Level 3 participation in Unplugged Nuclear Power. I'm right next to the circuit panel for average house in America. And what happens at Level 3 is people cut themselves off from the grid completely for the 24 hours of March 11th. And that's accomplished by throwing this circuit here. This is the main circuit breaker for the whole house. And you throw this, and now the house is completely disconnected from the grid. And you'd want to stay that way for the whole 24 hours of March 11th in order to remember Fukushima disaster and the victims of it. Now, I'm going to turn it back on because turning off your power from the grid can cause you problems. If your sump pump turns off, your basement could be flooded. If you don't have your freezer, your refrigerator have power, then you can lose food. So don't do this level 3, unless you have prepared. And in these times of climate uncertainty, as the grid collapses more and more often from things like storms and fires, every household should be able to survive for a little while off the grid. But we ask that you don't just use like a natural gas backup generator or a gasoline generator or a diesel generator, because one of the points of the anti-nuclear movement is that we don't need to do either nuclear or carbon. And there's been many studies by people like Professor Mark Jacobson that shows that we can get to 100% carbon free and nuclear free by using things like wind and solar and backup power. And so now I'm going to show you just exactly what I mean by backup power. So here's what makes participating at Level 3 possible for this household. This is a backup power system. It's powered by 4 deep cycle 6-volt batteries that are linked in series parallel. And those batteries are connected to this. This is an inverter. It's a 6,000 watt inverter that changes the DC power from the batteries into AC power that can be used by household appliances and so forth. And this little black wire here going out the window, that's connected to a solar panel, a small solar panel like this one. And the job of that solar panel is simply to keep these batteries topped off so that they're ready to go at any time. And so when the power goes out, all you have to do is turn on the inverter, and now it's making power, and then just plug in whatever appliance or the furnace or the sump pump. Anything that you want to run is now running off of the batteries. And what we need to be able to do as households is to be able to stay off the grid for a while, because, as I've said, the grid is becoming much less stable. Now, this system with this household can provide enough power to run the furnace and the sump pump and the freezers for 2 to 4 days, depending on how cold it is, how often the sump has to run, things of that nature. Now, this obviously is a homemade system. There are many commercial systems available. Tesla makes one, Generac makes them. Those commercial systems are usually automatic. They'll turn on as soon as the grid power turns off. We're not recommending any specific brands. We're just saying you have a lot of options. You don't have to put something together yourself. This is probably the lowest cost. It cost about $850 in 2022 dollars. But if you participate at Level 3, you'll discover just how little electricity we actually need as opposed to how much we want. We use a lot of power to entertain ourselves, to keep lights on when we don't really need them. When you participate at Level 3 with backup power, you realize just how little energy you actually need to meet the essentials, to keep your house comfortable, to keep your food stored, to keep your basements dry. We really don't need very much power at all. And another thing that we learned in 2022 is that we do not need nuclear power in the grid anymore. Worldwide, in 2022, nuclear power provided less than 10% of the world's electricity. And the countries that are heavily dependent on nuclear, like France, had terrible problems because They discovered their plants don't work in climate extremes. Either there's not enough water to run the cooling, or the water's too hot to run cooling systems, or systems need a lot of maintenance. Nuclear power plants have thousands of moving parts. They're very hard to maintain. And what happened in France in 2022 is over half of them had to shut down at the most critical times. And so they had power shortages and had to import wind and solar power from other countries like Germany. So we just want you to be able to understand and to be able to show your friends and your family that we no longer need nuclear power. And if we all take simple common sense steps like conservation, like having backup power, we could shut nuclear power off the grid forever and not have to suffer. So we hope you participate, and thank you very much.